Food processors are like an extra set of hands when it comes to help in the kitchen. They can do everything from slice and grate to chop, mix, stir, and even knead dough. I'm Erin from Tech Gadgets Canada and Tech Gadgets International, and I recently received a sample of the Hamilton Beach food processor to try here in my home and see what it's good for and what it can help me with in the kitchen. It's a very inexpensive food processor that's also got one unique feature that seems to deal with one of the troublesome aspects of using a food processor, and that's scraping down the sides constantly. So has Hamilton Beach got it nailed when it comes to the best food processors? I'll let you know if I think I can recommend this gadget to you. Let's take a look at what's in the box. What you get in the package is simple and straightforward. There's the motorized base of the food processor, which includes a non-removable motor shaft. Many food processors make theirs removable, but not here. Then the processor itself consists of several parts. There's the bowl, a chopping or mixing blade, a lid with a pusher, a reversible slicing and shredding disc, and the bowl scraper. The food processor has a surprisingly small footprint, but at the same time it looks like it will hold a decent amount of food for prep. There's not really much in the way of setup, just plug the machine in and it's essentially ready to go. You will need to choose which parts and pieces you're going to need for the task at hand and assemble those. Otherwise, that's really it. Let's start by chopping vegetables. You can just drop large chunks into the bowl. During my review, I used onions. When you're ready to chop, just align the lid with the handle of the bowl. That creates a safety lock that allows the blade to begin when you turn the control knob. Amazingly, this machine is extremely fast and the blade is really speedy and powerful. It makes quick work of pretty much any type of vegetable. There are 2 speeds here and a pulse option. The only caveat I'll make here is that there's really not a lot of speed control, and there doesn't seem to be a way to truly slow the machine down or to chop more slowly or more gently. The way to get a coarser chop is to simply run the machine for less time. In the recipes I tested out during my 2-week review period, I mainly was looking for a finer dice, so the machine actually did quick and excellent work of that for me. One thing to know is that you should add the bowl scraper before you start processing any of your ingredients. Otherwise, you're going to be trying to wedge that scraper in amongst a bowl full of food, which is not ideal. I also used this machine to mix a dough to make bread. The recipe I chose is specifically designed for a food processor or a blender, so it worked great in the Hamilton Beach food processor here. Despite the fact the blade is a cutter, it didn't destroy my dough and made fast work of the kneading for me. The bowl scraper is actually really genius, and I fell in love with it right from that first use. While your Hamilton Beach food processor is doing its work, you can use the small lever on the lid to maneuver the scraper to scrape the bowl as it works, carving stuck-on food back into the bowl for further chopping or processing. It actually does an extremely thorough job at scraping the sides and getting those wayward bits back in front of the blade. Next up, I made a homemade hummus. Here, the Hamilton Beach food processor really shines. It made a perfectly uniform dip and managed to get all the ingredients really well mixed. The bowl scraper was also brilliant here, since when I make hummus with another older food processor, I have to stop about 4 or 5 times to scrape down the sides. Here, I was just able to toggle that scraper around the edges while it was mixing, and everything finished up extremely quickly. This tool is so simple and yet so smart. I can't believe I haven't seen a food processor that does this before now. The Hamilton Beach food processor will also manage both slicing and grating. The cutting disc that does this is reversible, so whichever action you want, you turn that side of the disc up and then set it over the motor shaft where it'll click into place. I tried it out with carrots and made uniform slices for a soup. The only thing to note here is that there's really only one thickness option, so you can't get fatter or thinner slices. Even so, they were uniform and worked just fine for my recipe. Flipping the disc over to test out the grating, I tackled a firm cheese so I could make quiche. The gratings are much thicker than I would normally use for something like this, more of a rougher cottage style than a finer grating. Nonetheless, those also worked great in my recipe and I was happy with the end result. Overall, I am extremely happy with the results of the Hamilton Beach food processor. On the pro side, it holds a lot of food while taking up relatively little real estate in my kitchen. It feels substantial, but it's not heavy, making it easy to store away or to get out for a quick recipe. It makes fast work of a lot of tedious kitchen tasks, and it can handle everything from slicing to grating to chopping and mixing with ease. So what are the downsides? Well, there's not a lot of ability to finesse the speed with this machine, so you do have to be careful not to overmix or over chop. There's also no adjustability with the slicing or grating thickness. In my opinion, those are actually minor distractions that don't take away from the overall performance of this food processor. Plus, there is also the fact that this food processor is really affordable. It sells for just about $55 US. It's more in Canada at $109, and yeah, the Canada versus US prices are a bit out of control. I think this is a great food processor for a great price, and I can absolutely recommend it to you. Now, what if your food processor could also saute and maybe make rice? There's a whole new level of kitchen helper, the kitchen robot. Check out my review of Thermomix or see why this super cheap Hamilton Beach mini blender has tens of thousands of 5-star reviews right now.